Chapter 6. Cracks in the silence. The next few days blurred together, stitched with quiet walks, half-sipped tea, and pages filled with sketches I couldn't finish. Willerage had a way of softening time, of making minutes stretch and fold, like shadows in the late afternoon. I told myself I was just settling in, but truthfully, I was circling something I wasn't ready to face. Ethan was everywhere. Not literally, but in memory, in whispers. His name came up at the florist's, where the owner mentioned he'd helped fix the greenhouse roof. At the general store, someone said he worked odd hours at the hardware shop. Each time, it was like brushing against a part of me I thought had gone numb, only to realize it still hurt. I kept drawing. That was the only thing that felt honest. I filled my sketchbook with leaves and hands and blurred profiles I didn't name. There was something therapeutic in it, even if I didn't always understand what my hands were trying to say. One morning, I found a pinacone resting on the porch swing. It was a small thing, ordinary, really, but something about it felt deliberate. Like a breadcrumb. Like someone had been here, watching. The next day, it was a folded paper crane. Then, a pebble shaped like a heart. Each time I said nothing, but I started checking the porch more often, just in case. I finally saw him again on a Thursday. I was picking up paints at the art shop downtown. He stepped in behind me, the bell chiming overhead. I didn't look back, but I felt it, the air shift, a current pulling us both into the same tide. "You always did like the burnt sienna," he said quietly. I turned, brush still in hand. "You remember that?" His eyes softened. "I remember a lot of things." We stood there, between shelves and silences, the years folding in on themselves. "Why the porch?" I asked. He blinked. "You saw those?" I nodded. I didn't know how else to start. There was something raw in his voice. Not regret, exactly. Something more fragile. Like hope. Too afraid to name itself. "Maybe," I said. "You just did." Chapter 7. The Unspoken Years. We walked side by side that evening, not saying much, just letting the silence stitch itself into the spaces between us like it had always belonged there. The trail behind Gran's cottage was layered with fallen leaves, their red and amber hues catching the last of the sun's warmth before night crept in. The forest didn't press for answers, it offered a quiet kind of sanctuary, where two broken people could simply exist without performance or expectation. Every crunch beneath our boots echoed something unspoken regrets. Memories, years lost to silence. We didn't hold hands, but the nearness felt like a thread tugging gently at the fabric of everything left unsaid. I wanted to ask him so many things. The questions sat on the edge of my tongue like thorns. Why did you vanish? Why didn't you write? Why didn't you let me in? But the words clung to my chest like cold stone, too heavy to lift. My heart wasn't ready to crack open again just to find echoes inside. So instead, we talked about things that didn't hurt. The new bakery owner who wore pink aprons and always smelled like cinnamon. How the library still had that same crooked table leg in the back corner. The willow tree near the creek had finally fallen during the last storm. Our voices were calm, but underneath the laughter and nostalgia, something trembled raw, uncertain, like the forest itself was bracing for what would eventually break through. Then Ethan stopped walking. We'd reached the bridge where the trees parted to reveal the valley below, lit by the last golden embers of twilight. His hands were tucked into his coat pockets, and his jaw tightened as if he were holding something inside that no longer wanted to stay buried. I turned toward him, waiting. The moment felt stretched, swollen with memory. "I thought I was doing you a favor," he said at last, his voice rough. I swallowed hard. By leaving? He didn't look at me right away. His gaze was fixed on the horizon, where the sun had almost disappeared. My dad had just walked out. One day he was there, promising he'd fix everything. The next he was gone. Left Mom spiraling. She started drinking again, worse this time. I was 17, Ray. Just a kid. And suddenly I was cleaning up broken bottles and trying to keep her from choking on her rage. I felt like I was drowning in someone else's chaos. And the only thing that made sense was getting away from everything, including you. I said nothing. My heartbeat is louder in the silence. I didn't want you to see me like that, he went on. Back then, I thought love meant shielding someone from the worst of you. And I was the worst me. I couldn't sleep. I failed half my classes. I nearly got arrested for getting into a fight at school. And through it all, I kept thinking if I let you go, maybe you'd have a chance at a normal life. I turned to face him fully. But you didn't even say goodbye. He nodded, the shame clear in the slump of his shoulders. I know. I tried. I sat in my car outside your house that night, with a letter in my hand. I wrote and rewrote it a dozen times. But when I saw your bedroom light flick on, I panicked. I drove off, tore up the letter, and told myself you'd be better off never hearing from me again. And after that, I moved in with my uncle in Colorado, got a job working at night, and finished high school out there. I barely spoke to anyone for years. I didn't even unpack my things. I just existed. I buried you so deep. I thought maybe I'd forget how it felt to lose you. But you didn't, I said quietly. No. His eyes finally met mine, and there was so much in them. Regret, grief, longing. Every time it snowed, I thought of you. Every time I heard someone laugh like you do soft and from the belly, I remembered what I gave up. When I finally started getting my life back together, I still couldn't bring myself to reach out. I figured you moved on. You probably had someone else. A better life. I told myself you forgot me. I didn't, I whispered. I couldn't. He exhaled shakily. I'm sorry, Ray, for every word I didn't say. For making you feel abandoned. For thinking I was protecting you when really, I was just scared. My eyes blurred with tears I didn't try to hide. For so long, I'd painted Ethan's departure as a betrayal. But now, hearing the truth that it was fear, not cruelty, that drove him away fractured something inside me in a different way. I left too, I said, my voice soft but steady. He looked at me, but he wasn't surprised. I know you left town. Some town folks told me when I got back, but they never said why. I took a breath, watching the stars begin to prick through the dusk sky. After high school, I left for college. I wanted to get away from this town and see the world for myself. This town became a cage. Every corner, every building, every leaf on every tree reminded me of what I'd lost. Not just you, but myself, my roots. I felt untethered. So I packed my suitcase and got onto the bus. And it drove until the grief couldn't follow me. I went to college for 1 year. I lived in 5 cities in 3 years. Worked odd jobs waitressing, teaching art to kids. Even sold handmade jewelry for a while. I tried to build a life that didn't feel like an echo. He was listening so intently, as if each word mattered more than the last. But the truth is, I continued, no matter how far I went, I never stopped dreaming about this place. About you. About everything I left behind. And after a while, I got tired of running. I wanted to find my way back, not just to the town, but to myself. So I came home. And now? He asked, his voice barely a breath. Now? I looked at him, my chest tightening. I'm still figuring it out. Unfortunately, Gran died, but standing here with you, hearing the truth, it helps. It hurts, but it helps. He took a step closer, a forest folding around us like a quiet witness. I wish I could go back and change it. I don't need you to, I said. I just needed you to tell me. The wind stirred between us, rustling the branches like a collective exhale. The years we'd lost couldn't be reclaimed, but the honesty between us, this raw, aching truth, felt like the start of something not new, but real. We resumed walking slowly, neither of us needing to fill the silence anymore. In the quiet rhythm of our footsteps, in the small glances and closeness, something began to mend. Not neatly, not all at once, but enough for now. Chapter 8. A bridge between. The following morning came cloaked in silver fog, softening the world outside Gran's windows into a watercolor. I stood by the sink with my hands wrapped around a chipped mug, sipping tea that had long gone cold, replaying every word Ethan had said the night before. There was a strange stillness in me, not peace exactly, but the beginning of it, a fragile hush where anger used to live. Gran's house felt quieter now, almost as if it too was holding its breath, waiting for whatever would come next. The wind tapped at the window pane like a memory trying to get in, and I let it. I found myself back on the porch later that morning, sketchbook in hand, though I hadn't drawn in weeks. My pencil hovered above the page, but nothing came. I wasn't sure what I was trying to capture. Maybe the look in Ethan's eyes when he told me the truth, or the ache I felt when I told him mine. There was something unnameable between us now. Not just history or regret, but an undercurrent of hope trying to break the surface. I stared at the blank page until a shadow fell across it. "What are you drawing?" Ethan asks, stepping up to the porch slowly, like he wasn't sure if he was welcome. I glanced up. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept much, but he held something in his hand, a book. "Nothing really," I said. "I brought this," he offered, holding the book out to me. It was a hardcover, worn at the edges. Gran's favorite poetry collection, Leaves.A by Whitman. She let me borrow it once. I never gave it back. I took it, my fingers brushing his. "She would have wanted you to keep it." He smiled faintly. "I thought maybe you'd want it now." I nodded, and we stood there for a moment. The silence thick but not uncomfortable. There was something different in the air, softer, braver. "Want to walk with me?" I asked. He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I'd like that." We took the trail again, though this time we veered off the main path, following the stream that twisted behind the old schoolhouse. The sun was burning through the fog now, casting shafts of light that danced on the water. It felt like we were walking in a memory, but one we were rewriting, step by step. "I used to dream about you," he said after a while. "Not just memories, dreams. You'd be painting by the lake, or dancing barefoot in the rain. And I'd always wake up feeling like something had been taken from me." I glanced at him. "I dreamed of you too. But it wasn't sweet like that. You were always just out of reach. I'd run after you, calling your name, and you'd never turn around. It was like chasing a ghost." He winced. "I deserve that." "It's not about punishment," I said gently. "It's about what was left behind. We both had our ghosts." He paused, kicking a stone into the water. "Can I ask something?" "Of course. Where did you go for college? And how was the college experience?" I let out a breath. "Chicago Art College." I had this romantic idea of disappearing into a big city. I thought the noise would drown out the pain. I lived in a tiny studio with cracked windows and a radiator that never worked. I painted a little, waited tables after school, at a diner that played old jazz records. I made friends, but I never let them in. I told myself I was free, but really I was numb. I will admit, though college was a little fun. Ethan listened without interrupting, his attention like a warm current wrapping around my words. "Then I moved to Portland after college," I continued. "Started teaching art workshops. For the first time, I felt like maybe I was doing something that mattered. I stayed there for 2 years. Fell in love once, but it didn't last. He didn't know how to handle the pieces of me still stuck in the past. Pieces of me, he said softly. I nodded. And Willowridge. I always meant to come back, but I was afraid nothing had changed, or worse, that everything had. He looked down at the water, then back at me. It's strange. We left for different reasons, but we were both running. Yeah, I said. But maybe we were always meant to come back. He smiled, slow and sad. You sound like Gran. Maybe I finally understand what she meant about roots not being just where you start, but what you come back to. We sat by the stream on a fallen log blanketed with moss. The water gurgled softly beside us, and for a long while we didn't speak. It felt like neither of us wanted to break. Whatever spell had settled here, this strange calm, like the eye of a storm that had finally passed. I want to make things right, he said eventually. Not just with you, but with myself. I've spent so long pretending the past didn't matter, and I think that's what's kept me from really living. I looked at him and saw it, this man who had once been a boy I loved, now reshaped by time and pain and regret. And yet, the core of him was still there. The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. The way he listened without needing to fix everything. I'm not asking for things to go back, he added quickly. I know we can't rewrite what happened, but maybe we can start from here. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the sketch I'd managed to finish earlier. It was of the trail we walked last night, two small figures, walking beneath arching trees, their shadows touching even if their hands didn't. Maybe we already have, I said. He looked at the sketch and smiled, then looked at me. Do you think we ever stop walking in circles? Maybe not, I said. But this time, we're not walking alone. And just like that, something shifted again, small, quiet, but real. A bridge between who we were and who we might still become. Not lovers, not yet. Maybe not ever. But something just as rare. Rebuilders of something broken together. Chapter 9. Secrets beneath the floorboards. I couldn't sleep that night. Instead, I paced. I lit a candle and wandered through the house, touching old picture frames, books, and the faded edge of the quilt on my childhood bed. Everything felt both sacred and strange. And then I noticed the corner of a rug curling slightly in the hallway. I pulled it back and found a small square trapdoor, the kind of people forget exists. It creaked as I opened it. Dust billowed up in clouds. Below, a narrow crawl space stretched beneath the floorboards. With a flashlight, I climbed down. It wasn't much, just cobwebs, old beams, and silence. But tucked against the far wall was a wooden box. Small, latched. My fingers shook as I opened it. Inside were letters. Dozens. All addressed to me. All written in Gran's hand. They were dated from the year after I left one every week. None of them had ever been sent. Some were simple updates on the garden, memories of my childhood. Others were more cryptic. Dreams she'd had. Names I didn't recognize. One line stood out. Ethan isn't who he thinks he is. Neither are you. I sat there, knees tucked to my chest, Gran's voice echoing off the wood and dust and time. Everything I thought I knew about Willowridge was beginning to shift. Chapter 10. Echoes in the Attic. I didn't tell Ethan about the letters. Not yet. Instead, I climbed into the attic the next morning. The one place I'd avoided since returning. It smelled of cedar and thyme, of forgotten things. Old boxes lined the space holiday decorations. Childhood drawings. Clothes long outgrown. But one trunk sat alone in the center, covered in a red velvet cloth. Inside, I found more journals. Gran's handwriting danced across the pages, looping and sharp. Most were ramblings, memories of my parents, recipes, stories. But then came a section titled, The Red Season. She wrote of a pattern. Every 7 years, something changed in the town. People left. People died. Strange dreams spread like wildfire. She believed the trees were tied to it, that the color red wasn't just autumn's mark, but a warning. The last entry was dated the day before she died. It read, "She's coming home. I only hope it's not too late." The attic grew colder. I wrapped my arms around myself, heart hammering. Downstairs, the porch swing creaked, but the wind was still.